Hello there. So, day 8 of the 12 days of Christmas. And today we're going to talk, as anticipated, about the sandwich generation. Have you heard about it? I am very excited about this conversation today as I went to have lunch with my mom, who's taking care of my grandma, who's 99 years old. So, we were basically four generations under one roof: grandma, mom, me, my kids. And the sandwich generation is basically and if you're a millennial, good chances you in that demographic, is an adult that needs to take care of their children. We're not yet financially, emotionally, whatever, independent, and already starts to care about aging parents. Okay, so it's anyone between 30 and 50 that needs to take care, I would say, up until 13, maybe 14 years old. Your kids might still require you to around, for example, provide financially and whatnot. And then your parents might be, 70. Personally, I'm very lucky, very grateful. My parents are independent and all, but you might want to start looking after them. So it is interesting because in the USA, I read a couple of articles. I find it's something we don't talk enough about. And I was looking at our statistic. So in the USA, 47% of adults find themselves in a sandwich generation mode where they are caregiver of the younger and the elder generation, which is interesting. Also, it's a bit living between two different times, two different set of priorities and needs and desires and whatnot. And 15% of those are also financially supporting one or the other. In Italy, I read a very interesting article about how it's a bit less, like the 35% of the population from 18 to 65-ish that takes care of young kids and adults alike. And it's interesting how this links to an increase in depression and also the tendency to put aside certain personal goals in favor of kids or elder. Anyway, so let's talk about caregiving and how sandwich generation faces the demographic challenge, sorry guys, of taking care and supporting and assisting and gifting their presents and running errands as well for two very different group of people. And this is a lot and can cause resentment and, as I said, risk of depression. So how do you manage all of this commitment? So first off, I'd like to invite you to consider everywhere you bought into the, I would say, penurious reality that we're constantly sold, where there is never enough energy. You cannot have enough energy for all of it. Would you be willing to have a different point of view? And I know that it can seem a lot. I mean, it is a lot to do. But one thing that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, said about being tired struck me. It was something that really I'm very aware of to this day. And it's how he says that when you become tired, it's because you're separating from something or someone. So what would it take to just consider then that when you feel tired or overwhelmed or that you have too much on your plate, rather than pushing aside and rather than isolating and rather than quote unquote minimalizing your relationship, what if you could do something that is very counterintuitive, which is connect more? And I know it seems daunting. I know it seems like you got a lot more to do. But what would it take for you as an adult, rather than adding as this list of to do thing, um, creating a list of to be things, like things that are nurturing for you, where you don't need to necessarily perform anything, but those kind of things that gives you back that space of you. It can be, any sort of playlist, like music playlist that you love, that you feel very pumped and energized or relaxed about. I know that well, it's very random songs that for me are very nurturing. Like they kind of, my heart beat in sync with them somehow. Or one thing that I would very much consider is having a playlist of actors, comic sketches that makes you laugh. The our unique sense of humor is something that really snap us out of judgment and out of heaviness. So, you know, I would very much go there. And then also activities, all sort of activities that you enjoy. Like I love hiking, I love anything plant and soil. So if you see me with hands in the soil, repotting, pruning, whatever, I'm bliss, in the flow. And then also taking some time and space to nurture the project you're excited and enthused about. Okay. So, what if rather than, again, separating and isolating for the sake of, your own mental health or whatever, you rather connected rather than a to-do list, a to-be list that nurtures you, that regenerates you, that restores you. And what if you make sure, and I made a video about it, go and check, I believe it's day one in this playlist, if you instituted 1 hour a day for you to make, or do not do anything actually, to institute a space for you to nurture you, to pamper you, to take care of you. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a performing activity, you know, checklist. Okay. Okay, so this is the first thing. And then one other thing I would, well, very Captain Obvious here, but the thing that I would very much consider is educate all generation and talk with your kids and your parents about it, and make sure that there's an open channel of communication between all of you, where you can also have the freedom to say that you need some time off. Also, this is one thing, we use it in relationship with my husband very well every month, and that is taking 3 days a month for yourself, where you don't have to care for anyone or anything. We make sure we try to be outside of the home for 3 days a month. Why? Because it's very relevant that you nurture the relationship that you have with you, other than with your home, your kids, your spouse, your pets, and whatnot. Okay. So, anyhow, what is required of me today? That's one question I would ask. It just start trusting your intuition and be a bit like, okay, so what's required of me that I might not logically or cognitively remember or have in my agenda, but that I know is required. And it might be a phone call, and it might be, checking something on their school electronic diary, whatever. Okay. And along the same line, where is my attention required? This invites a bit of a bird eye perspective, where rather than focusing, like laser focusing on something and like burning it down, you are more aware of the people in your life as with a panoramic view as a whole, where you're like, okay, so is anything pinging? Again, we're talking about developing and training that muscle of awareness and intuition. Okay. And then last question that I love is, am I in the equation? Chances are, and there's some very interesting article, I wrote one about it, the arsenic hour. Arsenic hour is that hour in the day, which is usually, well, for Italy at least, might be a cultural thing, depends, on the culture. It's around 7 p.m. where you had your whole work day, and then you pick up your kids, they have their own activities, and then there is that moment where you're still fixing dinner, and your spouse, your parents, everyone needs to connect with you, and you might be managing 1000 things at a time. Also, you might be thinking about your own project, travel, golf, relationship, whatever. And your scenic hour is that moment. There's this there is this striving for connection, and you are ending something else, and you both want to take arsenic or give your kids arsenic. So And it's the one, suggestion that is given to adults that take care of several things, is to make sure that you kind of do a self inquiry about you and be like, and ask yourself, like, do I require any water or to go to the bathroom? Would I like to snack on something? Does my body require a bit of movement before going back into, again, caregiving? It's a lot. Okay, so make sure you are in the equation. Look at how many ways you can be in the equation that you've not considered yet, and yeah, let me know. And actually, I will see you tomorrow for day 9. Bye.